Was you can see the traffic. We're on the road to get some stuff. I'm driving like a grandpa, but that's how it works. Ain't no point in driving fast. That'll get you nowhere. Nowhere. Uh, I don't know if this frame rate's going to stay like whatever as fast as it's supposed to. It may cut in and out. It may stop working. Whatever. I'm just doing a live to make the time fly by. Maybe if you guys got enough stuff to talk about, it'd be nice if I could do like some of those other lives where people can hop in and actually, um, what do you call it? Um, join in on the live and talk. But whatever, that is what it is. So we are road tripping right now. I got a lot of driving to do, so we're. I don't know how good. Like I said, I don't know how good the video quality is going to be. I know the audio quality is going to be pretty decent because I'll have the Bluetooth on. But the video quality, we'll see if the interstate doesn't have good bandwidth, then it will drop off. So it's got 6 megabits per second right now. Doo-doo. So hello. Hope you guys are doing well. I know it's not the best. Let me swap this camera around real quick. I can do this. Swap around, go to the back camera. You guys can see the interstate, the fancy dancy highway system. I don't know if you guys will like that or y'all would rather actually see what's going on over here. But we just rolling down the road, and I guess we can talk about RF theory. We can talk about whatever, but it's just it's a bit of a ride, so we're just hanging out. This is, I guess, they call it in Twitch. I think because I got Twitch, I got YouTube, and I got Facebook. But on Twitch, they call it just chatting. No, we can do whatever. Hello, Mister Game, waving a hand, man. Hope you're doing well. We're doing a road trip, heading down the road. The I normally show you guys videos of a lot of stuff to do with RF theory, and antennas and coax and things like that. Uh, waving a hand, Finn. Hope you're doing well. But this is more of, I guess, a discussion thing, so you guys can understand a little bit more about it. Unfortunately, I can't do like this big full infographic for you guys to show you guys how this stuff works because I'm driving. But we'll swap her back around. Y'all can see whether y'all want to just. It's a little dark in here. It's a bit brighter out there. I guess I can turn. Nah, that looks ridiculous. I did that. Whatever. I can hang out and say what's up. Uh, but yeah. Uh, Georgia, what's going on, Monster? Hope you're doing well, man. We're on a road trip, heading on the road. Waving hand, Gavin. Hope you're doing well, man. I'm using you guys as my driving partners. We got about 24 hours worth of driving to do in the next 50 hours. So I don't know if I'm gonna go live that whole time. I doubt I will. But just to speed the process along, I just figured I'd say hello and talk to you guys. Would you guys rather see the road, or would you rather hang out and talk? Um, I can talk about whatever as far as RF theory goes while we're at it, but at the same time, Iranian, waving hand, man. All right, what we got over here? Headed north. Yeah, we headed north. I got a bit of a ride. I got to go get my stuff. I've got a couple pieces of equipment I got to go pick up. Uh, it's definitely a bit of a quick turnaround. This is the weekend after we just got back, so it is what it is. You guys let me know if the video. Hey, waving a hand. Appreciate you, man. Thank you. 150. Yeah, it's so a little bit further than I wanted to go, but it was part of it. I thought about flying up and like renting a piece of equipment and then heading back. But it just I don't know. It was too complicated, too many things to worry about. And it just didn't work out. So we done a ride in our I guess the what do you call it, the cream school bus. It's the ESV. Yeah, for sure, man. Thank you. Appreciate that. Um, hello to everybody else that's hanging out on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We're taking a ride. If you guys would like to ask some questions, I think we had a couple questions the other day between half inch flex and half inch hardline. If y'all want to go over some coaxes and stuff like that, we can talk about that. If y'all want to talk about the ride, we can talk about the ride. Whatever, it don't matter. I don't have the gimbal set up, so we'll see what these rough South Carolina roads are going to do. Yeah, it's shaking it a bit for now. All right, looks like we're getting through it. Uh, but yeah, when you're talking about, I'll go ahead and talk about it anyway, just for, I believe I don't want to lie. I think it was Mickey who asked, but if he didn't and somebody else did, I apologize. I didn't keep up with it properly. Uh, but the difference between coax, whenever you're talking about half inch flex or half inch hardline or something like that, is you look at three parameters whenever you're dealing with any sort of wire. The first thing you're going to look at is one, of course, is it long enough? And that's not really a parameter. That's just a basic necessity. I'm going to get out of this lane because it's too shaky. Um, and I don't feel like riding through bumps for 2 miles. Um, the next thing you'll look at is attenuation. Attenuation is how much signal is lost over a given length on a piece of coax. Waving a hand, DC1. Hey, it's been a hot minute since I talked to you, man. But attenuation is basically how much power is lost over a given length on a piece of coax. The next thing you'll look into would be power handling, like how much power can that specific wire handle and at what frequency can it handle that power. And then the last thing will be the physical size of the coax, the cable, and stuff like that, what all it will do. And I guess we can throw in a fourth parameter. We'd be like the flexibility, the bend radius, and things like that. All coaxes have what's called a maximum repeated bend radius or a minimum repeated bend radius, and then a minimum bend radius. Waving a hand, 178. We on a road trip. We riding down the road. We got a good little piece to go. I gotta go. We got about 24 hours worth of driving to do over the weekend. So we got about 50 hours to complete this, and I believe we'll be all right. Depends on how much you guys can keep me talking, I guess. I'm not tired right now, luckily, but I don't know. It just if you guys got questions, I figured it would be a little simple little Q&A for you guys. So anything you guys have been wanting to know about as far as RF theory, if it doesn't like just absolutely directly compete with my business, I'll help you out with it for sure. I like to explain things, make things easy. People want to know like the difference between a beam and a ground plane. They want to know. Somebody was asking, like I just mentioned earlier, the difference between a half inch hardline and half inch flex. The long and the short of it is pretty much in any application, I would recommend half inch flex unless you needed more power handling, or you're just running just crazy, obscene amounts of length. Because of course attenuation does stack up. It's in 100 feet and 100 meter increments. When you're talking about 100 feet, it doesn't matter. But when you start talking about 500 feet, that starts getting into a problem. Pompano Beach and back Saturday and Sunday, about 20 hours. Yeah, Pompano Beach is a good ride for sure. I did Pompano Beach from I did it a weekend too, actually. But we had two drivers. No, we drove separate. I think we went down on a Friday morning and then headed down and then came back. But yeah, for sure. Are you headed out this weekend? I know you said you was gonna go grab it, but are you heading out this weekend? Okay. So average watts, it wouldn't. You could definitely you and number eight. Heck yeah, man! Shoot, and y'all drive safe for sure. I'm going the opposite direction, but we gonna be trying to be safe over this way too. Luckily, I got the all clear for the weather, so it seems to be we should be all right. But yeah, that's pretty cool, man. That's great to hear. I know y'all. It's been a long time coming for sure. So 50 amp breaker. What we'll do is we'll do some math. If we was to figure out our math, we'll take a 50 amp breaker and we just you use voltage times current. That's basically the easiest way you figure that out. Voltage times current equals power. So you guys can see this truck blocking me. But yeah, so your voltage time it definitely did drop off. Did it kill my audio, guys? Let me know if it's just dropping video feed or if it's dropping my audio too. That way I can explain this real quick. I'll hop up here real quick. It'll come back. We got a crappy zone through here. We're about to hit up towards Anderson. I told it to go to adaptive on the mode, but whenever we get in the terrible service area, it just falls out. So it should come back. We should have good service for probably the next 50 miles, and then I think we'll get a dead zone probably up there towards the 100 or so, 90 or 100, and then the zone will come back as soon as we hit Charlotte. I got to stop in about an hour or so, but I'll just talk about this for a minute. So we should be good, maybe. I know it's another 5 miles till we start getting really good service, uh, but looks like I'm back up to a decent par. I don't know, so sorry if it doesn't come over good. So I'll try to explain it again. Yeah, for sure, Jason. Appreciate it. Thank you, man. Mr. 777, waving a hand, man. So we get 12,000 watts available. So whenever you're setting something up, that's where you figure your math off of. So you have to figure out efficiency from there. So typically when you're talking about any sort of tube amplifier or anything like that, you're going to be around 70% efficient. But that's the big number that's going to be the kicker for a lot of guys. Some pillboxes will do 60%. Some pillboxes will do 65%. Most of them do about 50%. So if you was to figure it off 50% efficiency, your number would be significantly smaller than it would be at 70% efficiency. So with a pillbox, you've got about 6,000 average you can play with. With a tube amplifier, depending on how it's built, you got about 8,400 average you can play with before your breaker starts to trip. Now that is continuous 24/7 usage. So you can get at least 8,400 watts out of it before you start running out of breaker. You can exceed 1.5 times the current rating of any breaker before it trips, typically when it's brand new. I know that's the true with fuses. It's possible there may be some breakers that may not hit that same level. But as far as I'm aware, it should be around the same 1.5 times that rating. So we'll swap back over to the front, talk to you guys for a minute. So about 8,400 average is what you could do as far as in a continuous operation without having to worry about anything. You can stretch it up to probably 9 or 10,000 average, but you're going to start heating up the breaker, heating up your wire, and things like that. Ampacity, that would put you at a full 50 amp load. So if you had a 6 gauge wire, the wire would be a little bit hot because it'd handle about 42 amps. If you've got a larger wire than a 6 gauge, your difference in your wattage on your RF is you have to, one, figure out what your equivalent heating wattage is, and that would be the closest number to what's called your bird average. Because a bird average meter doesn't necessarily read average, it reads equivalent heating effect. So number 6 wire should be fine. Yeah, realistically, you should be fine. It shouldn't get even. It should get slightly warm. If you look up number 6 for ampacity, that's what you would figure out. And you just want to make sure the ampacity of number 6 can handle at least 40 something amps. Ideally, it would be nice if it can handle 50 amps. If you looked up any sort of chart on that on your specific wire, THHN versus SOOW versus a bunch of different other wires, they have a different ampacity based off the jacket and how much like the jacket can breathe and stuff. Uh, so keep that in mind. But typically, for all intents and purposes, you can run full output with that the breaker can handle off of a number 6 wire. Um, I've never had any problems. Just being quite honest. But about 8,400 average is what you could run continuous, and then you could peak it up every once in a while and just have some fun for like 10, 15, 20 second spurts at probably 10,000 or so. And that, of course, is assuming that your box set does exactly 70% efficiency. If it's better than that, it can do more watts. If it's worse than that, it does less watts. If y'all want to expound on that question, we can talk more about it. If y'all got other questions, y'all feel free to ask, and we'll talk about something else. We're talking about input power versus output power there. Um, Now, peak wattage, just so we can talk about that till y'all ask me more questions. Um, Here's the thing. PL259, yeah, your connector is going to run out before your wall circuit's going to run out, to be honest. Um, there is Wizard out there. I think he did like 50,000 watts or some crap on a PL259. I've seen other guys run 32 pills and I think 48 pills off of a PL259 or a UHF connector. So whether that's good for long-term use or not, that's a whole different story. If you look at the dielectric spacing of a UHF connector versus a DIN connector, the dielectric spacing is actually not that much different. Um, the main issue would be the shield connection, how well the shield makes contact with the body. Um, but if you get like a Teflon connector or something like that, or just a good dielectric spacing connector, then it should hold out a pretty decent amount for sure. So let y'all see some more traffic. We'll see what's going on up here, up the road. I wish there was a faster way to swap the camera. But we were just riding up the road, guys. Where am I headed? I am headed up north. We are going up to the I don't know. I was messing around and said the Devil's Playground or something, but it's just cold up there. I'm going up north. Looking about 178, $78. That works out. You just let me know whenever you want to. That's fine. Um, Realistically, the jumpers. All right, here's your question. Let's look at it real quick. Your question. Oh, darn. Hang on 1 second, guys. Yeah. It's just keeping me awake. No, I'm not tired at all. Order to go food today and use the wherever you want. Uh, well, find the ones that delivers. Zaxby's delivers. Chick-fil-A delivers. Well, just hang on, DC1. I'll tell you in just 1 second. I'm just gonna try to tell her what to eat. Um, just get some pizza or whatever. Then order the food that you don't want because I'm not home. It's okay. It'll be all right for £1. You good with that? All right. No, it's not his fault. All right. I love you. All right. I love you. Love you. Bye. All right. Bye. All right. So back to work. So now let's say Steven's question. Oh, actually, yeah, DC1's question. Um, your question: does jumpers and coax to antenna life matters with the type of antenna you're using? Half wave, 5/8 wave, full wave. Okay, so the no, what you're using on your let me swap this around so you guys can see me. What you're using on coax whenever you're setting something up is only important to what it's going into. Let's say I am running, I don't know, whatever. Say I'm running a 3,000 bucks, and then I got a driver, and then I got a radio. So what's going to happen between my radio and my driver is strictly between my radio and my driver. Whenever you turn that box on, there's the input is no longer seeing the SWR going to the antenna anymore. It's seeing a whole new antenna circuit, which is the input of that new box. And then in between the driver and the final box, it no longer sees when that's on. It no longer sees anything but in between that driver and the final box. The input of the final box is its antenna. So you have to treat them like individual antenna setups. So what I do typically on pretty much everything is cut the velocity factor. And there are some instances where it doesn't matter. There are some instances where you would want to do the inverse of that. But that's what I would do personally. Um, Especially if your box has got a tune and a load. I do that all day long. Um, but you're not going to want to do like say if my antenna is half wave and I'm trying to pick the type of coax to use. I'm not going to grab or worry about having a full wave or a 5/8 wave versus a half wave depending on what my antenna is. No, it doesn't make an effect. So there's different antennas. Basically, there's a whole different antenna circuit seen in the system because, like I said, when the box is turned on, it no longer sees the exterior antenna. So that's why velocity factor is what matters because what you're doing is trying to make the coax as close to invisible as possible. And that's for the main antenna feed line, that's for jumpers, that's for everything. The goal in your system is to make coax feed line. It's supposed to transfer signal from point A to point B. It's not supposed to have any effect on the system whatsoever. If it does, then it's not doing its job. Now, there are situations like a stub tuner and a stub tune or something like that, or several other situations where coax would actually matter. Uh, but for all intents and purposes, for most applications that people are asking me about, uh, coax links, it's best to actually make the coax as close to invisible as possible. So that's what you're going for, whether it's main antenna coax, whether it's jumpers or anything else. If you run a multi-banded setup instead of just a mono-banded setup, then you no longer have that luxury, unfortunately, because making the coax can only be invisible at specific frequencies. That's how it works. So you can make it invisible at multiples, but you cannot make it invisible at any other frequency other than the frequency that it's set at. So there's, of course, a whole line of caveats set up, an antenna set up with what's called what link you put in line, because the purely resistive load actually helps eliminate any sort of common mode from the system. But if your line to load impedance is mismatched, if you have reactance in line, all those things will cause problems. So the goal is to match everything up. Now, is it resonance is not the same thing as making a coax invisible. Like, if you're trying to achieve resonance, that's not the thing you're trying to do, because you can get a resonance at 75 ohms. You can get resonance wherever. It's not the same thing as actually having a match set up. So kind of confusing, but the simple way to go about it for all and pretty much anyone who's choosing to mono band a specific setup. Like if you got an HF rig and you got a full auto tuner to run through a full set of frequencies, then use your auto tuner. And then what that's going to do is use the inductance and capacitance built into the tuner itself to try to cancel out any residual reactance in the system. Problem is there's multiple places where those tuners need to be, and also the more power you run, the more it increases the load on those units, because it'll either swing a lot of current or it'll swing a lot of voltage to the actual tuner itself. But yeah, it doesn't mean it's not going to work. It'll be fine. For most guys, though, just make the coax invisible. That's your simplest solution, especially if you're going to do multiple mono banded setups or just one single mono banded setup. Hopefully, I didn't lose any audio during that long spiel. If I did, I apologize. You can see we're up to a 3-lane now. We will drop back down to a 2-lane up the road. So we got some traffic across the road. What length of coax jumpers do I like? I don't like a specific length of coax jumpers. Awesome, good. I don't like a specific length of coax. Because here's the thing: electrical length and physical length are not the same thing. A lot of guys will get wrapped up on a physical length, and they won't quite understand that you're looking for a specific electrical length. So I can have one coax and I can tell you a length, and I can have another coax and I can tell you a length, and I can have another. I'm going slow for some reason. I don't know why my cruise is not kicking on. All these guys are catching up with me. And I can have another. What's a little too much? Let's slow down. Let these guys scoot on by me if they want to. What was I saying? Oh, and I can have another coax of the same type of coax, just further on down the spool, and it actually be a different length. So physical length is not something you're going for. What you're going for is what's called a velocity factor cut. You're trying to cut a coax as close to invisible as possible. You can use some math and you can get close. I've used math for years, and I've actually helped some guys with some math to get them close. But if you're wanting to be deadly accurate, then it's always nice to do that. 104, waving a hand, man. Hope you're doing well, man. We are on the road. I got 24 hours of driving to do in a 50-hour span. So we got to be scooting up the road. Unfortunately, I got to make a pit stop here in the next 30 miles. But we'll be hauling some extra weight by then. But yeah, good evening. Hope you're doing well, man, for sure. Let me put some coffee. I'm gonna get the jits going real quick. Yay. Not too bad though. They sped up mostly. I didn't have to slow down but like 3 mile an hour. We'll be there in 33 minutes. Yay. All right. Well, that's traffic for you. Just trying to get around these folks. Let's see if they'll let me out. So when you get in the slow lane, sometimes people just want to randomly push the brakes. So you just got to deal with it. Not super happy with that, but hey, that's name of the game. Better get a hold of you soon. Got my Suburban, so I'm gonna be setting it up. Have some fun. Heck yeah, man! Shoot, let me know whenever. We'll set you up with whatever. Um, as far as yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can do that. That's no problem. Whiskey man, I can make it happen. Uh, really? Hang on a second. I gotta turn the AC on real quick. Turn that bugger on. Hey, hey, hey! I got you figured out, booger. It was telling me my phone was too hot, so it's telling me to use overheating protection second to improve live stream performance. Sorry, I got to cool off my phone. It's not. It takes a lot of heat to charge and run the live at the same time. So we are blasting this booger with some cold air. But all right. So bounce back antenna system. Like so. Yeah, sure. A parasystic reflector is fine. That's a good antenna setup. There's nothing wrong with that. So you can definitely make a parasystic reflector work good. Um, let me see if this dude's making me drive way off the interstate. Got 6 miles off the interstate. Jeez, whatever. Well, I'm going 12 miles out of route for this dude. It'll be all right though. Um, but yeah, I've done one on my Suburban. I've done others for other people. I did one for a guy down out of the port. He's got a whole setup there. It thinks I'm on the phone. My watch does. Um, yeah, I'd be happy to build it for you for sure though. Cool thing about Suburbans, you can kind of cheat, and you can use the fact that it's up underneath the roof and you're doing a puck setup, and which I assume is what you're going to be doing. And you can just build a normal split feed. Typically, I stay away from normal split feeds because they are a problem when it comes to 32 pil is still available as of now. I got about four guys looking at it right now, but nobody has bit the bullet and paid the money yet. So it is still available. Um it might not, it won't be as good of a deal after this weekend because there's no reason for me to get rid of it for cheaper if I'm not trying to get something. I've already, I think, marked the price to a reasonable place before, so I'm just doing a buy it now and let me get my toy. But if I'm gonna have to do some sort of something that's, if I'm gonna have to do some finagling, then you ain't getting no deal because the whole point of this is to make my life easier. But yeah, I got another piece I've got to drop off. I've got some equipment I got to drop off up in way further up in North Carolina. I'll probably drop it off on the way back, most likely. I might do it on the way up. Just depends on what time it is. Is it still too hot? Oh wait, sorry, telling it to focus back over here. So, what do y'all like? Y'all like this the road view, or you like the hang out and see what's going on view? Make a vote. See which one y'all want to see. If y'all want to see the road, if y'all want to see my ugly mug. Jeez, they're speeding. Here I am riding behind this daggone truck. Well, as soon as I pull in behind this big truck, what's going to happen is the booger's going to slow down. We'll probably swap it around so we can hang out and talk. I guess it don't bother me whether we look at the road or whether we hanging out with me. We find a good spot. Let's push a button. Probably not the best spot, and that one. But yeah, we just riding up the road, guys. Copy. I hope it works out for me. Everything's working out fine. I actually, technically, I don't need to sell it anymore, but I'll keep the sale going. Uh, but I mean, it is what it is. If it doesn't sell, I'm fine. I really don't care. I can literally throw it in any vehicle that I want. And then I've got another one that's bigger than that that I can play with later on. So it's those are personal things. I don't sell those on my RF supply. But from hot velocity cone. No, you'll probably want to do uh, a multiple. Is probably what you'll end up doing. So basically, you're going to have a little under 13 foot to work with, or you're going to have a little under 20. I don't know what 5.5 or less to work with if you do a multiple. Um, one piece of good news is is it over 30 foot or over 20 foot? I can't remember. I think it's over 30 foot. Never mind. But yeah, 393 would do a good job for sure. That's some pretty cool wire. I got some even cooler wire coming up here soon. Let's not get cut off. Not really sure what's going on with traffic up here. Wave in hand, 111. Hope you're doing well. Stalled vehicle up the road's what they said. I got 14 more miles on this road before I turn. Oh, really? What? Ain't no way. Are you kidding me? Better ass probably out watching me yawning. Yeah, I'm not one of those guys. I think I was talking to a truck driver today, and he was telling me, he said, once I hit that second yawn, I am exhausted and I'm ready and I'm looking for somewhere to pull over. I'll yawn for like in the middle of the day. And it's not, I don't know, it's not a thing for me where I get like super tired or something like that, and you catch me yawning and stuff. Shoot, I'll yawn literally at 2 in the afternoon. It doesn't mean I'm tired. It's kind of weird, to be honest, I guess. Let me swap this burger around, let y'all see what traffic I'm having to deal with. Hello. What? Which one is it? What are you using it for? Use the Discover for food. That was supposed to be for groceries, and the zip code for that was the only zip code that's 30557. Huh. I don't know. It should work just fine. Uh, that's stupid. All right, whatever. But just use the Discover for food. Love you. Bye. Yeah, they're leading off of me. Well, see, here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's weird. Traffic cruising right on up through there. Yeah, we're riding on up. We're about to go through our first big city. Then our next big city will be another, what is it? Be another 2 hours up the road or so. Um, and then the next big city after that will be about 3 more hours up the road. And the next big city after that will be, I don't know. I haven't really been that far that direction. Uh, I guess 2 more hours up the road. Not really sure, to be honest. I hope I brought enough small bills. Probably going to get stuck paying tolls. I'll probably make a few phone calls before I start doing that. But yeah, we just riding up. What do you But yeah, y'all got questions? We can talk about it. We was talking about a Suburban and doing a puck on that. If you want to talk about Suburbans, mobiles, coax, whatever, it don't matter. Anything to do with RF theory, we can discuss it. Gives me more stuff to talk about. I know a lot of guys have been hopping on my live and asking questions, and I try my best. I really do. I do the best I can to try to answer you guys. Uh, but sometimes I just don't see the comments. DC one. Here's the thing. There's a couple different things you can do there. Gamma match or direct feed is your question. So I'm gonna expand your question a little bit because I can't really talk about one without talking about the other. So might as well just expand it the rest of the way. All right, so I'll say gamma match versus beta match versus direct feed. Um, that way we can kind of talk about what all of them are. So to discuss it shortly, real quick, a gamma match and a variable capacitor are the same thing. A beta match and a hairpin are the same thing. A direct feed is a direct feed. It's just simply directly feeding the antenna, splitting your coax from shield to hot, and feeding one side to one side of the element and the other side to the other side of the element. That's a direct feed. Um, a hairpin involves the same thing, but it kind of shunts it on both sides. So it adds what's called a variable inductor in line. What a gamma does is it kind of has an inductor somewhat by moving the strap, but it also has a variable capacitor. Typically, the capacitor is doing most of the work. The inductor does a little bit. Um, Same thing with sliding a cap in and out or turning a variable capacitor or a tube capacitor are the same thing. They're all just variable capacitance. The reason you would use a gamma match or a vacuum variable or what other type of variable is simply to cancel out the inductive reactance in a system. So if you have, say, a beam that's been built and it's been set up, say by Mako, most of Mako's specs will end up with a ton of residual inductive reactance in the system. So in order to match and get resonance or achieve resonance, what you'll do is you'll add capacitive reactance to the system to cancel out that inductive reactance. The spacing, the layout of the antenna, the position of D1, of D2, D3, D4, D5, so on and so forth, the reflector, the driven, and D1, all of it, is going to control in a large portion the gain that you have on the antenna. But what the gamma does is it actually makes that antenna usable. If you have no form of SWR somewhere, you have too much power or either too much voltage or too much current for a system to work. Just the SWR is too high. It's typically spoken as reflected power on like a bird meter. It's technically, when you get into specific terms, it's not exactly that, but we'll just call it reflected power for just simplicity's terms. The reason you would do a direct feed is if you've done what's called optimized an antenna. So if you take a beam and you take, say, a Mako beam, a Mako M105, I'm just going to direct feed my Mako beam. That won't do a dang thing for you because the antenna won't be matched. Because the way the antenna is designed, it's going to have residual inductive reactance in the system, and you have to cancel that out somehow. If you have an optimized beam that you've paid somebody, or you found some specs, or you're using some specs, or you've bought some specs, one or the other, and you are trying to hook up a coax to that, uh, the feed point impedance for that setup is designed and made to be at a 50 ohm impedance with no inductive or capacitive reactance. Um, Let me call real quick. I got to make a phone call. I'll finish this conversation in a moment, so don't run away. It's a lot to explain, but we'll go over it, and I'll make sure I explain it to all you guys. So let's call and meet this dude. Hello, hey, yes, sir. I am, I don't know. It said I was 7 miles from my turn. But you want to meet off the exit, or you want to meet that whatever 5 miles further that that you sent me? Yeah, yeah, I got you. Yeah, let me take a look real quick and see. It says I'll be there at 7:45. Okay, sounds like a plan. Yeah, I'm on the road and I'll be headed there. Uh, no problem. Sounds good. Bye bye. All right, so back to our conversation. I've got to set my navigation, make sure it's set up right. Uh, it's fine. All right, so let's finish this discussion real quick. I'll swap back over so I can talk to you guys. All right, so what's up, 73s man? 73 man. Hope you doing well, Lewis. Yeah, appreciate it, Tom. Yeah, we got about 24 hours of driving to do in about a 50-hour stretch. So we're gonna be stretching it. Ah, darn it. Hang on a second. I'll be back. Swap this booger around. What are you calling for? Oh, was that an accident? Dang it. I don't want to risk it. Give me a second. I guess they didn't need nothing. I'm sorry. You guys are stealing my stuff. All right, swap back to the front, keep the light on. All right, looking at a 4.5 inch preload. 4.5 inch preload is fine. I can talk to you a little bit more in detail about the pucks that I'd recommend. I'd probably need to look up a bunch of different pucks and tell you the ones I'd like. But let's finish this stuff that DC1 was asking. So if DC1's still hanging out, we'll try to finish his and kind of cover this pretty thoroughly. This will be like a 2 mile. They got to turn. All right. So we discussed why we need to have a gamma match or a variable capacitor. We also discussed the benefit of a direct feed and what a direct feed does, or we discussed what it did at least. We didn't discuss the benefits yet. Now let's go into the next piece. The last part of this is the inverse of what a gamma match is, and that's what's called a beta match or what's called a hairpin. What a hairpin is you'll go with an antenna setup that will be optimized and set up to have a residual amount of capacitive reactance. And what you'll do is you'll use the inductive reactance in the the beta match or the hairpin to cancel that out. So you'll move that inductance to knock out the capacitive reactance in the system to create your match. So the benefits of each is if you have it optimized, you typically, if you're going for like say a direct feed setup, there's always something you have to sacrifice in order to achieve a purely resistive load. I am getting off at 51, but it doesn't say 51 A or C. I'm getting on 385 South, so we'll just follow the signs for 385 South. So there's typically something you always have to sacrifice in order to do a direct feed. Second from the right lane. Okay, I see where I'm going. So typically it's about a half a dB or so that you're having to lose, sometimes 7/10 of a dB. That's usually what most models will come up with. What most people end up doing when they're setting it up is they'll lose that half a dB in order. This thing needs to shut up. She's talking way too much. She's going to tell me to turn again before I can even 3/10 of a mile, and I'm going straight on 385. Oh no, there's a little bit of traffic. We'll have to deal with that. And okay, so an OWA setup, the way it's going to set up is similar to the way a just a normal direct feed would be. The OWA that you're mentioning, if you've set it up for say a direct feed, what's been done whenever you do that, so that the general public will know, is it's what's called an optimized wideband array. I'm getting on Columbia, where I cut way over here. Love that. That's great. All right. At least there wasn't much traffic. That would have been terrible. Oh yeah, now I'm getting red. We'll be stopping in some red lights here in a minute, I'm sure. So I got says I'm red on the Google Maps. Gotta get on Woodruff Road now. We in Greenville, South Carolina, so this conversation is gonna have to pause for a second until I finish all my turns. So right, then we're going left, then we're doing blah blah blah. So we'll stop. All right, an OWA is an optimized wideband array. So an optimized wideband array, what that does is actually it sacrifices gain for bandwidth. So 4 miles, we're good. Cool. Yay, nothing but red lights. I can see them. All right. It sacrifices gain for bandwidth. So technically, if you're looking for a direct feed on an antenna system, probably, and you want to hook directly up to the antenna, probably one of your most ideal situations is to probably go an OWA because you're going to sacrifice gain to go a direct feed anyway. Uh, the reason matching networks exist is simply to get the highest amount of gain possible, while still having a good SWR. So if you're trying to get the highest possible gain in a setup, you're not going to go for a perfect 50 ohms. It's not going to happen. There's always a sacrifice to be had. But technically, whenever you move D1 really close to the driven, that's how you get an OWA. You increase the bandwidth by actually putting D1 super close to driven. That is one situation where a direct feed would be pretty simple because the gain that you lose from going a direct feed can be just lost in the OWA design. So yeah, that could work for sure. OWAs the usually typically set 0.7 dB of loss that you have is typically not much more than the 0.5 to 0.6 you lose from going a direct feed in general. Um, the Man, there's just nothing but brake lights up there. Um, I like a matching network. I would absolutely recommend a matching network to pretty much anybody. I don't really care too much for a variable capacitor or a gamma simply because they can cause the radiation pattern to skew uh, because of you're only driving most of your power into one element, one half of the element. Um, how much does that actually affect performance? I don't know. You just have to try it for yourself. There's plenty of guys that run vacuum variables, and there's plenty of guys that run gammas that work just fine. But it doesn't change the fact that engineers agree 100% that it does skew your pattern. Um, Whenever you use a hairpin, I'm a pretty big fan of that setup because there's not really a whole lot of power handling that has to handle. It's just got to be big enough to build up to run and do what it needs to do. And it technically just shunts the antenna. So another benefit of a hairpin is it actually has a direct DC connection to the boom. So if you're not isolating your elements, which a lot of guys do like to try to isolate their elements because you can achieve higher gain with a shorter boom. Um, it's typically, in my opinion, not really worth the trade off. I would like my antenna to be as close to ground potential as possible, and then if I shunt feed the antenna itself, or shunt the antenna, it's not really shunt fed, but it's shunting the antenna itself. Uh, then what that allows me to do in that situation is my antenna is at complete as close to ground potential as possible. So that means any sort of lightning strikes, any sort of bad weather events, any sort of static buildup that could build up on my antenna. If I ground my tower and I actually ground my beam, like my mast, through my rotor, and I don't have like a ton of different connections in between, like say if I'm on a crank up, if I don't have a bunch of greased up, uh, slides going past. Uh, but I have like say a RON 25, RON 45, or any sort of power that's directly connected. Uh, then grounding is like 100% in my advantage. I don't really have to worry about my coax getting attacked because it's following the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance is anything that's grounded and at ground potential. And the cool thing with grounding things out is it's a static drain. So basically, lightning strikes from the ground up. It doesn't strike from the sky down. So a lot of people get that confused and they don't understand why. Why does this keep getting struck by lightning? It's simply because that piece is getting a significant amount more potential difference than everything else. Not all it does is just facilitate transfer of electrons. And if you got a lot of electrons trying to transfer, that's what's going to happen. You got a fancy little lightning rod. Um, so going back over the whole setup, OWA is great. A direct feed's just fine. A hairpin's just fine. A gamma's just fine. But if I was to recommend a specific setup, I would probably recommend some sort of optimization to your antenna, or a new antenna, to optimize for a hairpin. Just simply because what that allows you to do is allows the antenna to be at as much ground potential as possible. And then at any point in time, any sort of static drain that you do by station grounding, below your tower, like a halo ground or any sort of effect, any sort of ground to that effect, is going to pull off any excess, um, potential difference or voltage buildup on your tower, any static electricity. So it'll pull that down. So now, long conversation. Sorry, DC1, if you didn't hang out for all of it or if it cut out my voice, I apologize. I hope that was a good explanation for you guys. That's a lot to explain, but that's kind of out of all the beams that I've done, all the setups that I've set up over the years, that's what I kind of lean back towards just based off of that setup. So, next question. Yeah, sweet man. I hope that helped. But I would absolutely, rather than even a direct feed or rather than um, a gamma, I would recommend to do a hairpin, in pretty much any situation, just, because you can still optimize for gain, the highest possible gain, the best possible front back, the best back door and everything else, um, is going to be optimizing an antenna for gain, for front to back ratio, for side rejection, for all those things, and not optimizing an antenna for the match. So if you can move your non-optimization towards capacitive reactance, then you've already got the perfect opportunity to just go ahead and hook up a gamma, then, or excuse me, a beta match or a hairpin. So that's what I would recommend. That's where I'd recommend to go. You're welcome to do it however you like. I've done direct feed. I've done, vacuum variable systems. I've done, hairpins. I've done direct feeds, all of them. I'm kind of repeating myself a little bit because I'm looking at traffic. So sorry, guys. But yeah, it's a long explanation just to kind of bring you towards there. Anybody got? Sure. Let's go ahead and look at your question now. Next, Todd. DC1, let me know if I've uh, answered you properly, and I'll talk to you more about it. Now, again, that doesn't make any other design bad. OWAs are an excellent design antenna. There's nothing wrong with them either. Should I run the same pucks for both? If I one day go dual hot, then it's easier to tune. There's no difference in pucks. So what a puck is going to do, is all it needs to do is transfer proper impedance. It would be really hard for a builder to screw up the impedance of a puck. It's been done before for sure. But again, not tired. I just yawn. So sorry for the guys that are awake and trying not to get tired. And if yawning makes you tired, I apologize. I'll try to remember to swap my camera around before I yawn. Um, yeah, hopefully it didn't scramble you too bad. The whole goal is to try to make it simpler for guys to understand. But there's a lot of stuff to explain one specific thing. If you want bandwidth, go in OWA. If you want an antenna that's got the least possible static buildup or like the most resistant to lightning strikes and things like that, do a hairpin or a that's a Circle K. That's not the Sphinx. Dang it! I gotta go a little further. If you want a simplicity or easy to operate, easy to hook up, just buy a Mako and run a Gamma. It's not a big deal. Any of those systems will work. You'd have to get into like serious power or serious setup for anything to really make any sort of other differences than that. So don't get too wrapped up into it, especially if you're setting up. You can always pay somebody for some specs later on, and then just swap up and change your design. So it's not really that big of a deal. Um, yeah, I know, right? So hopefully it helped. As far as pucks, like I said, it's really hard to screw up a puck. You can't really make a mistake too much whenever you're building it. There is ways, but most reputable builders with a puck will have it figured out, so it should be fine. So running mismatch pucks is not going to make a difference. What's seen on your antenna system is something called counterpoise, and something called like your driven element. So whatever element's being driven. Um, you also see reflectors. So I guess we can get into that a little bit. So whenever you're setting up any sort of antenna system, um, spacing is key on a mobile because think about on a beam, you've got the option to modify and move your spacing of your antenna. If you don't have that option on a mobile, you better darn well figure out what's the best option. So consider spacing first. Consider any future expandability. So if you plan on running a system that's going to run three antennas, four antennas, five antennas in the future, then of course that things would change based off your design from there. If you consider the type of antennas you're running. If you're planning on just running some sticks up all the time, or if you're going to be running say coils or something like that. Um, but the main thing is spacing and counterpoise. Counterpoise is probably the most important thing that most people get wrong. If you don't have a good connection to the vehicle itself, then it's not done properly. Uh, what was it? A used one to ball. A used one to one ball. Balun? So a balun is not the same thing as a hairpin. So try not to get confused with that. I'm not sure if that's specifically what you're saying, but a balun is definitely not the same as a hairpin. A balun is something you put on your coax. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I'm going right on past your neck of the woods, right on up the highway. I got about 24 hours worth of driving to do, in the next, 50 hours. So it'll be a ride for sure. And then let me let this guy know I'm here. So let's, see how this works. Um, I'm kind of relying a lot on something right here, so we'll see if this is a mistake or not. But we'll figure it out. Uh, but I'm picking up an enclose now. Dude's pulling up, so I'm gonna probably hop off here. I don't really see any reason why you guys should look at an enclosed with me. So I'm going to look at this thing, check it out, and see what it is. Make sure it's everything's good on it, and then get to riding on up the road. I don't know where the heck he's going to be at though. So yeah, appreciate it, Mudduck 22. Hope you're doing well, man. Uh, Skip Shooter waving a hand, man. Hope y'all doing well. DC1. I appreciate the questions for sure. I'll try to go over some more if you guys want to hop in here later and y'all got more questions. We'll make this a questionnaire day. We'll have 12 hours worth of uh uh unquestioned D-Win questions. So we'll look at our trailer real quick, let you guys see it, I guess. So it's pretty, wait, there it is up there. It's in decent shape. It's not too bad. I would probably like to get see, right there. All right. So I'll catch you guys later. I'll hop back in here and, I'll talk to you guys more. See y'all.